Sometimes the best conversations go to the most unexpected places. That's exactly what happened when Joe Rogan sat down with Priyanka Chopra Jonas. What started as a chat about her new movie, well, it completely spiraled into this mind-bending journey through history, colonization, and seriously, some of the biggest questions we have about who we are. Priyanka actually said this about Joe's show, but honestly, it perfectly sums up the rabbit hole we're about to dive into. I mean, we are starting with a Hollywood pirate movie, and we're going to end up questioning our very origins as a species. It's wild. So, let's just jump right in at the beginning. Okay, so it all kicks off with Priyanka's new pirate movie. But what's interesting is the conversation wasn't just about, the film itself. It quickly became about this massive difference between the fantasy you see on screen and the brutal, ugly truth of what being a pirate was really like. And this contrast is just fascinating. On one side, you have Hollywood magic. Priyanka's talking about how these intricate fight scenes are basically like a dance, right? They're using rubber swords with different weights to get the perfect shot. But then she flips it and talks about the historical reality. For actual pirates, life was just barbaric. It was a brutal survival of the fittest world. So you have this beautiful, choreographed art on one hand and a truly terrifying reality on the other. Now, here's where the conversation takes a turn. The villain in her movie, he's a soldier from the East India Company. And just that one little detail, it cracks open a door to a really, really dark chapter of our more recent past. We're talking about an era of corporate colonization that literally reshaped the world and just erased the histories of millions of people. And look, this wasn't just a company. Joe Rogan makes this super clear. The East India Company was one of the first publicly traded corporations. Think about that. You could buy stock in it. And what did your stock get you? A piece of a corporation that waged wars, that had its own army, bigger than most countries, that controlled entire nations, and was neck-deep in the opium and slave trades. It's insane. A corporate entity that completely changed the map of the world. And this is where you really see the lasting damage, the scars. Priyanka's character, for example, is based on the very real history of Indian indentured servants. These were people literally scooped up from their homes and just dropped in places like the Caribbean. Their entire family tree? Gone. Erased. And then Joe adds another layer to this, talking about Mexico, where colonization led to the loss of over 100 native languages. 100! Whole cultures were just wiped out and replaced with Spanish and Catholicism. You have generations of people who are just totally disconnected from their own history. So this idea of lost history, of erased identities, it doesn't stop a few centuries ago. This is where the conversation goes even deeper. What if our collective memory loss stretches back thousands and thousands of years? What if, as the author Graham Hancock puts it, we're basically a species with amnesia? Yeah, Joe brings up this quote, and it's so powerful. The idea is simple, but it's also incredibly profound. What if we've forgotten a huge, maybe even technologically advanced chapter of our own story? And what if the proof has been staring us in the face this whole time, hidden in plain sight in these ancient structures that we can't explain? Priyanka immediately jumps on this and brings up the Kailasa temple in India, which is a perfect example. I mean, really think about this for a second. This entire mind-blowingly intricate temple was carved downwards out of a single solid mountain, one piece of rock. If you make one mistake, the whole thing is ruined. And if the sheer precision of that isn't crazy enough, get this. Nobody has any idea where the hundreds of thousands of tons of rock they carved out went. It's just gone. And of course, then you've got the big one, the Great Pyramid of Giza. We're talking about 2.3 million massive stone blocks. And some of these blocks, some of them weigh up to 80 tons. That's like, 45 cars? And they were somehow moved from a quarry 500 miles away. You try to do the math with the tools we're told they had, it just doesn't add up, not even close. But okay, just when you think it can't get any weirder, it absolutely does. Joe brings up these recent satellite scans that seem to show immense, man-made structures a kilometer deep beneath the Giza Plateau. A whole kilometer. They're talking about massive columns like 20 meters wide wrapped in coils. If this stuff is real, if it's confirmed, then every single theory we have about the pyramids gets tossed right out the window. Everything we thought we knew is wrong. So all of these ancient puzzles, these impossible structures, they all point to this one fundamental question. It's a question both Joe and Priyanka get really fascinated by. How did we get so smart so fast? How did our intelligence just explode? Did we really figure all this stuff out by ourselves, or did we have a little help? And this really boils down to two competing ideas. On one side, you have the standard textbook theory, right? We discovered fire, we started cooking our food, that unlocked more nutrients, and our brains gradually got bigger. Makes sense. But then there's this alternative theory, one that a lot of ancient texts seem to hint at, the idea of some kind of external intervention. And this theory could explain maybe the biggest mystery in the fossil record, why our brain size literally doubled in what is, geologically speaking, the blink of an eye. And this is where stuff like Vimanas comes into play. You look at these ancient Indian texts, and they're describing flying crafts. They're talking about incredibly powerful energy weapons. Now, to our ancestors, what else could that be but magic, right? But looking back now, and this is what Joe and Priyanka are getting at, you have to wonder, were they just trying their best to describe a technology that was so advanced it was completely beyond their understanding? Okay, so this brings us to the final, and honestly, the biggest idea in the whole conversation. What if? What if this isn't our first time at the rodeo? What if human history isn't just one straight line of progress? What if civilizations rise, they reach a peak, then they get wiped out by some kind of cataclysm, and then, slowly, they rise again? A great cosmic cycle. Joe lays out the Younger Dryas impact theory. The idea is that around 12,000 years ago, maybe a little more, a comet or fragments of a comet slammed into the Earth. This event abruptly ends the Ice Age and destroys what might have been a highly advanced global civilization. So what's left? Only their most massive, durable stone structures, the pyramids, the temples, and myths and legends of a golden age, a time before the flood. And then, for about 5,000 years, there's a dark age where the survivors are just trying to get by. And after that, civilization as we know it restarts in Mesopotamia, basically from scratch. So if you put it all together, this grand theory looks like a repeating cycle. A civilization rises and hits a technological peak. Then, bam, a cataclysm resets the world. Then there's a long dark age where knowledge is lost and history turns into myth. And finally, a new civilization slowly starts the climb all over again. It suggests that maybe we aren't the pinnacle of some long straight line of history. Maybe we're just the latest version of humanity to get this far, with almost no memory of the ones who came before us. And that leaves us with a pretty wild final thought, doesn't it? Our whole civilization is built on this relentless drive to innovate, to build bigger and better things. And right now, we are on the verge of creating artificial intelligence, literally a non-biological form of consciousness. So the question is, are we building something totally new here? Are we finally pushing humanity to its ultimate final peak? Or are we just repeating an ancient pattern, building our own incredible technological marvels right on schedule just before the great cosmic wheel turns once again?